Hello and welcome to another tutorial. Today what we're going to be making is Nuka Cola and Nuka Cola Quantum. So they've both got their own caps and then the label and the back label. But the thing that makes the Quantum different is that you can just about see there's an LED inside of it there. Now I've seen other people make these and they do look good, but what they do is you get one of these light bases and if you have it turned on, there. Now that actually looks pretty good, but if you don't want to have this base, it's a little bit difficult on what you should do. So I've come up with a method of getting the LED inside, so this is completely self-contained. You don't need any external light sources. It does mean that the power is going to run out eventually, but you'll be able to open it up and replace it. To do these, it's a little bit more expensive and a bit more difficult than I would normally do for my tutorials, but I think the end result looks a lot better and it's worth it. So hopefully you'll enjoy and we'll get started with the tutorial. This is what you need to put it all together. The ingredients are glass bottle, or two if you're making the normal colour as well, some sort of clear fizzy liquid. I'm using soda water. You want some blue food dye, and you want blue and red paints for painting the caps. And you want label paper as well. And you want this thing, which is a tie-on light, which you can get cheap online. They normally come in packs of 2. Now you want 2 because you want the batteries inside. And the size of that battery is a CR1220. And you're going to be taking this apart, taking the LED, the battery, and that little bit of circuit board and clip on it. Now what you need to actually put it all together. You want hot glue gun, you want some scissors to cut up the inside of that. You got your soldering pen and a bit of solder, obviously, and you want a paintbrush just to use your paints. I'm using bottle opener and I'm using a coin and a little card just so I can protect the top. So the first thing that you want to do is open up your bottles. Now you don't want to just straight up open it, otherwise you're going to get a bend in the top and it's not going to look that good. So what I recommend you do is get a coin, which is the rough size of that cap, and a bit of card. If you put your card on first and that coin on top, so that coin's going to protect the cap from getting bent a little bit. So just go slowly and prise it off bit by bit. Or what you can do if the bottle opener doesn't fit with the coin on like mine, as I've just figured out, is just put the card on and open it up very slowly. So just go around the outside and prise it up a little bit by little bit. Okay, you can see it took a little bit of a beating without using the coin, but a lot better than if I'd have just gone straight up and opened it. So if your coin doesn't fit it, you can still do it anyway. So the reason you do that first is so that you got a drink while you work with it. Now on to the next step. The next thing that you want to do is print these out on some label paper. Now if you check the description, there's a couple of links, one for each of these, and they're the original creators of these. I didn't make these, I'm not that good. So print them out on the label paper and then you want to cut them out. So try and get as close to that line as possible. Alright, now once you've cut them out you can stick them on. Now I'm going to save these for later till I've actually finished the drink. But because I'm not actually opening this up, I can stick these straight on here and all I've left to do is the cap. I can peel off that back and then when I'm putting it on, I want to try and get as close to that as I can. And then I can press that down, and it doesn't matter too much if it's kinkled up because, well, it's been in the apocalypse, hasn't it? So. And same with the other side, but you want to get it as close to that as possible and then wrap it around. Alright, and there you go. Now you might need to use a little bit of persuasion with some glue depending on how it gets on because you are putting this onto glass so it's not that sticky. Next step, taking this apart. Now go ahead and take this clip off So I can all clear and straight, take it off and chuck that. So now these normally come with just clipped on. So if what you can do is get your screwdriver underneath and just pry it free. Like that. Now chuck that bit. And then if you peel this up, you've got either 1 or 2 batteries in there. This one came with 2, so save those. And then you want to remove that circuit board with this intact. So there's a couple of screws there. Unscrew them. Chucky screws. Alright. So for everything that isn't this circuit board with the LED and this bit of metal attached. So if you pull your LED up a little bit and then you want to cut it as close to the base as you can there. And then yeah, you can put that to the side for now. So now you're left with this little bit of circuit board. Now it's got a spring on there and this metal, like a malleable metal, just so you can press it down. But you want this to actually fit inside of that cola. So like right now, it won't fit in there, so you have to cut it down a little bit. It's easy enough to do with just scissors, but what you have to watch out for is that you don't go near these 2 little bits of metal there. Them 2. You can cut that bit off, but don't cut near those ones. So just cut it off. And there we go. Now, to check, just see if you can get it in that little hole, which you can, so that's the right size for me. So this is what you got out of that little bit of circuit board, your 2 batteries and the LED. First of all, what you want to do, test both of your batteries work. So get your LED and just spread apart those little leg bits. So you got your positive on that top bit, the little ridged bit, and on the bottom and the edge, that's your negative. So get both of your arms, touch one to the edge and one to the top. If it lights up, it works. If you do it the other way around, it doesn't work. So make sure you try both ways before chucking it away. So make sure both your batteries work, and then you're good. How this circuit works, both your batteries together, and you want the negative, which is the big end, to go on the spring, and then the positive, which is that little ribbed edge, to go on that metal plate. So if you put them on and close down that plate on top of them. Alright, and then you've made a little open circuit there. And to test, see if it's working, get those legs, and those 2 little bits of metal, touch it to them. If it lights up, your circuit's working. Now what I recommend you do at this point is just get a little bit of electrical tape, just to hold that down in place, so it doesn't bend the metal out of place while you're working on it. So now it's time to do some cool stuff. So you want to double check with those legs, make sure that you got it right around. So that is for me. So what that means is this contact point means this leg has to go on there, and the same with the other ones. So that's what I'm going to be soldering together right now. It's very important that the solder which you put on doesn't touch each other, otherwise it's going to short circuit and it's not going to work. If you use an electrical socket solder, you just click it in and work it. This is a gas powered one, so it works a bit like a lighter, where you turn it on and then light it. So what I'm going to do is light it, and then when it gets a bit hotter, I can just put the solder on where I want it, and then put it together so it melts and forms a bond. It took a while, but I finally managed to get it stuck together, and as you can see, it's lights on now. So you can put that aside for now, and you might as well take the batteries out, save a couple of minutes, why not? So next step that you want to do is sort out the caps a little bit. Also in the description there's a link to both of these which you can print out. So I'm going to cut those out and I'm going to stick them on the top. and the paint is for the edge, just to try and blend it in a little bit. The bottle cap, which I took off, that's going to be for the Nuka Cola Quantum, and then obviously the Nuka Cola is going straight on top of that. And try and get it as central as possible. And then just flatten it out. There we go. It's looking pretty good now. Just needs a little bit of blending in there. Back off and then get it central again. And press that down. There we go. Alright. So if you didn't want to mess about with paints trying to blend it in, what you could just do is paint it straight on the cap. You know, it's easy enough, it's just that right in, depends how neat you want it to look. So, I've just got a plastic tray where I'm going to mix some colours in. Alright, so mix black in with the blue just to make it darker and paint it on. And that's not too far from the actual colour, so I'll just cover all the outside of that. Now what you want to do is make sure you get in between these little grooves as well. So alright, and same for the red, I'm just going to mix in a bit of black. Alright, so here is how they look. Now they look alright, but what I've done is just done a separate one. I just straight up painted this on, and honestly I just go with this one. I think it looks better. Unless you're good at blending paints, I'd just do it straight on like that. But that looks alright. So to protect it and make it look a bit more shiny, you need to seal it with something. Now that can be either spray sealant, or you can use something like Podge just to paint it on. I'm going to try both and I'll show you what it looks like. So for the Podge, now normally you do it with a glue stick, but obviously with these little bits it's not going to be easy to do, so use a paintbrush, but if you want to keep the paintbrush, make sure you wash it straight away and do it very thoroughly. I'm just going to do a really thin coat. Alright, so there we go. So it looks white now, but it does dry clear. Alright, and then leave that to dry fully. You can put a couple of coats on depending on how glossy you want it as well. Alright, so after these have been left to dry, this is what they look like now. So this is the Podge. A little bit shiny, it's alright. And then this is the spray, which is a lot more shiny. So I'd recommend going with a spray sealant if you can. But now you've almost got it all together now. So what you have to do is attach this little bit to the inside of the cap there. The way we're going to do that is with hot glue, just to hold it in place. It's also going to seal it and give it a little bit of protection from the liquid that's inside. But it's not going to give it total protection, but I'm not too bothered about that because it's going on a shelf and it's staying there, so it's not going to be an active prop. If it is going to be an active prop, then you're going to want to just fill up your lid completely with hot glue and then press it on the bottle, which means you're not going to be able to open it and replace the batteries, but you know, it's not going to short circuit. So what I recommend doing is putting all of this together first with your batteries. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of hot glue on this itself, just so the batteries don't shift while I'm getting into place. And then I'm going to put hot glue on this side and press it into the cap. Now this is to hold the batteries in place a little bit and stop them from touching that metal wall. So I'm just going to put a little bit on there and then I'm going to leave it to dry completely. Alright, so that's dried a little bit, and now I'm going to stick it to the cap itself. So it's going to be a little bit tricky because I still want to be able to fit the lid on top. So I need to get these little edges here as far away from the side as I can, so most central. There's a big bit of hot glue, and I'm going to put it straight in the middle. And hopefully that is pretty central. Ow. There we go, so that does look pretty central to me. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and hopefully that'll fit in. So it's time to see if it fits together. So hopefully you've almost finished your drink now. There we go. So now what I can do is just put it on top, not press it down, but just see if that clashes with anything. So no, that actually fits in pretty well, so I shouldn't have any problem getting it in. What I'm going to do is just use a little bit of hot glue just to fill in some of these gaps, not going near the edges, just give it a little bit of protection but not over much. Blah. So I can set that to the side to leave it to cool down a little bit. So what you want to do now is fix the label onto there. But before I'm going to do that, I'm just going to wash this out and get the residual colour out the bottom. So that's been washed out now. Now it's ready to put these labels on. So there's a bit of a gap there. What I'm going to do is fix the label from here, just after that white line stops, and I'm going to fix it down. And then with this other piece, that's going to be touching or overlapping slightly, and then it should leave me with just a tiny bit of a gap with no white showing. So take the backing off of this. You might need to use a knife. So you're backing off, and then place it down. There we go, and then I can just press it down into place. Don't worry if it crinkles a little bit, just makes it look a bit more old. Okay, and then the same with this other piece, but you're going to line it up with that edge. So there you got your quantum bottle. So now it's time to mix the actual quantum cola. So instead of mixing it in here, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get any blue dye on the bottle or on the label. I'm just going to mix it in the bottle itself because that's not going to be drunk. So I'm just going to take some of my food dye and use a toothpick. I'm just going to get a big lump of it and then just press it on the inside there. Now I'm not trying to get it in the liquid, I'm just rubbing it on the outside, and then I can close it up and shake that and see if it's the right colour or not. Lid on tight. Right, on camera it actually looks very light, but in person it's quite dark. So that's actually a good amount for me. There we go. Use a funnel if you've got one, and just pour it in very slowly. There we go, and now there's no spillage in there. And you can see bubbles rising up, which looks really quite cool. One last thing to do now, take your bottle cap, line it up, and just press it into place. Yep, and that's pretty much it. That's how to make your Nuka Cola Quantum and Nuka Cola. See, the really cool thing about this is that it's self-contained, and although it doesn't really show up when it's against the light, I'll show you some footage of it in the dark to show that it does light up a little bit, but not way too much. And I think it's better than just having it on one of these bases. What you can do is use both, get it from both ends. but meh. You can see a little bit of your light up there, but it's not too obvious. Alright, so this is in where I can turn the lights off. So this blue that you're seeing on screen now, that's more how it looks like in real life. So I'll hit the light so you can see how it illuminates. Right, again on camera it's not really picking up the colour, but there's actually a nice blue glow and some of the floor is lighting up as well. That's it for this tutorial, and hopefully you liked the way that I did the lighting on the Quantum, and it was enjoyable to watch. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with these, and they can go with the other Fallout props. This time, instead of doing an end card of just 2 tutorials, I thought I'd show all the Fallout props which I've made so far. All the other things that I've made have all got their own tutorials as well. So I'll link you to them, and hopefully you can check them out as well. Thanks for watching, I'll see you for the next tutorial. Bye.